The concept of a large, armored, motorized vehicle being used for military purposes had been a source of fascination in the world of fiction and real-life engineering since the turn of the century, a decade or two before the concept was fully realized in the armored cars and first tanks of World War I. The concept was often referred to as a land ship or land ironclad, a term popularized by H.G. Wells' 1903 short story, which predicted how a weapon of that type may change the way wars were fought. In the December 1916 issue of Popular Science Monthly, one inventor outlined his vision for one such machine of war. Philadelphia engineer and inventor Frank Schumann believed that the future of warfare would require the land equivalent of a battleship, and that these mechanized titans would balance out the scales against vast armies of men. His design was for a massive machine with two large wheels at the front, measuring 150 to 200 feet in diameter, which could allow the behemoth to roll over terrains of varying elevations, crush trees to splinters, and carry it through water that was many feet deep. The wheels would each be 25 feet wide and thickly armored, made of plated sections of 4-inch thick steel bolted together. Schumann stated it would be able to travel at 100 miles per hour, which he admitted was a tall order, but believed that engineers would be able to design engines of proper dimension and specification to accomplish it. It would require 25,000 horsepower provided by oil-fired boilers. It would be able to roll over rocks and hilly areas and reach top speed along flat land or coastal beaches. The machine would span about 300 feet wide from wheel to wheel. A crew of about 30 would be housed in a small car at the center of the machine and would include a conning tower. This central carriage portion would be reached by elevator. There would be one wheel at the rear for steering. The whole structure would have a comparatively short length, which would assist in making for small turning radius. All the wheels would be latticed, which was imagined as a defensive design mechanism, so shots would pass through them easily, making the wheels difficult to damage. Interestingly, it had no armament, instead having a hanging wall of chains at the front beneath the cabin which could sweep away any structure, vehicles, or armed forces in its way. The chains would be anchored by large weights which could function as wrecking balls. The curtain of chains could destroy houses, trees, power and telegraph lines, railways, and signal bridges. Oil-filled cylinders would work as shock absorbers when rolling over buildings, similar to shock absorbers used for large guns on Navy ships when they are fired. The whole machine would weigh 5,000 tons. Ironically, it seems that the main goal of Schumer's design was not to empower nations to wage even more destructive and deadly forms of war with each other, but to deter them from it. The idea being that if every nation had something with such destructive potential, no one would be willing to fight with one another. A kind of mutually assured destruction like what we would see with nuclear weapons half a century later. The impressive illustrations that accompany the article, done by accomplished artist Edwin F. Beha, depict the machine rolling over and wreaking havoc in what could easily be any American town just as much as any European one, perhaps driving the point home that such a destructive machine could just as easily be used by the enemy with devastating results. Designer Frank Schumann was actually a very interesting man, an accomplished inventor with dozens of patents and quite forward-thinking for his time. In addition to inventing a couple types of safety glass decades before they became common in automotive and commercial products, he was an early pioneer of solar technology. He foresaw the limitations of oil and coal supplies and built some of the first steam engines, powered by solar energy and even some small-scale solar power plants. His research and later field projects were held back by the First World War and then cut short entirely by his death in 1918, aged just 56. His land dreadnought was the only military idea he ever put forward and remained entirely a thought project in the pages of Popular Science Monthly. I'll include a link to the issue in the video's description so you can read the fascinating articles for yourself.